Welcome everyone. We're really thrilled to have you here today to join us for our webinar, Microsoft Copilot and AI, Navigating Business Readiness and Opportunities. With the rapid rise of generative AI has the potential to really transform work and turn routine tasks into opportunities for growth and efficiency. But the real challenge lies in recognizing and utilizing those advanced capability of tools like Microsoft Copilot that we'll go into a bit deeper. These tools have the potential to enhance decision making, drive innovation, and really give you the opportunity to develop competitive advantages. So today we're fortunate enough to have our own Brendan Welch and also Philip Meyer from Microsoft with us. They're going to unveil the full spectrum of AI's influence on business processes, spotlighting how these tools can not only streamline daily operations, but also, empower businesses to make strategic data-driven decisions. We'll dive into a detailed exploration of how integrating advanced AI technologies can reshape your business model, ensuring that your approach to AI adoption is both responsible and aligned with best practice. And we'll also have an opportunity for Q&A at the end, so you can use the Q&A function there for anything that sort of comes to mind throughout. Otherwise, I'll hand over to Brendan.
Awesome, thanks, Lee. So look, I suppose to kick off, I was writing the slides for this webinar and kind of I probably should do a bit of an introduction into what AI is and give you kind of some awareness around different types, how to speak, some tips and tricks, so that when you kind of go through the rest of this, you get a bit of I suppose, a level playing field from everyone that's here. So to kick that off, quick summary, I suppose, of what generative AI is. There's all the buzzwords that come out. So it's basically a type of artificial intelligence technology that broadly describes machine learning and the systems that are capable of generating text, images, and code and other kinds of content. And it's often from the response of us as people talking to a computer. So you'll find it in things like chatbots, online tools, obviously one of the great ones out there, ChatGPT, and that kind of comes into the next part. So we have some different, I suppose, types of generative AI, who owns them, where the data lives, and things like that. So the two kind of, or I suppose, some common ones, you've got ChatGPT, which is a model that's developed by OpenAI. Now, they can answer kind of questions and generate human-like responses from text prompts, but it's a large language model, and it uses generative pre-trained transformer model. So if you want to know what ChatGPT or where the GPT comes from, it's there, but I won't bore you with anything else from that. And the way that works is it will generate and grow with the information that's fed to it a long time. So your next part, or I suppose your other one, would be Bing Chat, which is the Microsoft variant of kind of that ChatGPT. And so in a similar vein, it will generate based on the information that's available to it and the information that's fed to it. But unlike ChatGPT, because it's owned by Microsoft, you have some governance, some control around the data that you're entering into it. So as a business, it might be a better option for you to use there. We've got DALL-E, which is, I suppose, an image generation version of ChatGPT, and that's created by OpenAI as well. So some things that might kind of come into would be things like deep fakes, or just general image creation, but you can definitely have some fun with that one. I know some mates and I have put in queries and prompts to ask it to do things. The image generation is definitely a fun one. And then tying all of that together, we've got Microsoft Copilot. So I say that's where the magic happens, but it's where it ties in all of these different types of generative AI, but then adds in the data that you have as an organization to enhance the response that you get. So public AI, you're not going to get access to your business data, and nor would I say you want to put any kind of business data into something like ChatGPT. Talk about that later. Whereas with Copilot, because it's in that Microsoft space, it's built on things like Bing Chat for Enterprise. It has access to the things that live inside your Microsoft 365, your Outlook, your Teams messages, your Word documents, and that, and it can give you something a little bit more, I suppose, defined to your business rather than just generic publicly available information. So that's your two kind of different types of data. I suppose Copilot as well is the umbrella term that Microsoft uses for a lot of their AI tools. So be that Bing Chat Copilot for Office 365, and then into other tools like Power Automate, Power Apps, Dynamics 365. So they're your, I suppose, different terms of AI, kind of where it is and how it fits in there for you. Some of the other things you might want to have a look at would be, sorry, skipped a slide. The next part from that would be, now you kind of know where they are and how they talk. It's how you want to talk to AI. The best way that you can do it, and a lot of things are, is to talk to it like it's a complete stranger. It doesn't know, so this is public AI as well, but also for something like Copilot, you want to talk to it as a stranger. It doesn't know what you are wanting it to do. You can ask a simple question and you're going to get a simple answer, or you can ask a complex question with a lot of different modifiers in it and you'll get a much better response. So there's I suppose the conversation that you can have with ChatGPT as well, or with an AI. Each question or each response, it will build on the information that it has. So I suppose one of the things I've got here when I was building this this webinar and slide deck, I had, I suppose, hey, I'm an IT professional writing a slide deck for a webinar, and can you give me some prompts? That's, I suppose, your more in-depth answer, sorry, your more in-depth question. Your, I suppose, brief question and what I see a lot of people doing is saying, hey, can I have some slide decks for a webinar presentation on AI or whatever that is? But it's lacking a lot of that extra additional information about things like the audience that you're talking to and kind of how in depth it needs to be. You might want to say, you get your response back and you might want to modify it and say, cool, that's a really casual response. I'm talking to like a C-level and I need that response to be more kind of in line with that. So with all of that said, I suppose that's kind of the how you talk to it and what you can do with it. So yeah, where are some things that you can use AI? So like I said, you've got your conversation starters. You've kind of started the obviously you started the question with ChatGPT, but then you want to kind of give it those deeper queries and metrics around what you're trying to do. So the benefits you can get when you're talking with the AI tool would kind of really depend on what industry you're in and what limitations you have around the data management or your company's policies. But you can use AI to create your scaffolds of documents and policies. I've got plans, even emails. You can use it when you're creating blog posts for, I suppose, social medias or newsletters. One that I kind of use a lot is when I've got an unnecessarily wordy paragraph and I just want to simplify it down. Obviously, there's no personal information there. You can put that in and ask it to kind of give you a summary that's going to be more succinct. I spoke about, I suppose, using the Bing Chat versus ChatGPT, but using the AI tools to do initial research and information gathering. So when you use ChatGPT, it's going to just give you an answer. Whereas if you use something like Bing Chat, it's going to give you referenced articles. So as it generates its answer, there'll be, I suppose, footnotes on that entire answer, and you can go to the articles where it's collected that information so that you can see exactly what it is that you've got there. And I'll touch on that a little bit later around just GPT, also AI tools just generating data. Another one that's good there is creating formulas in Excel. I use that all the time. If you've got to go and manipulate some data, you can say, hey, I've got this is what I'm trying to do. It will give you some really good instructions around like how to build a formula, or if you're having problems with a formula, you can add that in and it will say, hey, this is where a problem is, or something like that. And then the one that I like quite a lot is using it to create guides. So I had a customer that tried to sign up for ChatGPT, the premium version, and I basically asked, hey, how do I sign up for ChatGPT? It gives you a full step-by-step guide, copy and paste that, that's done. So for, I suppose, public available information, really great there. So I suppose some other things that I've used ChatGPT, or sorry, not ChatGPT, but an AI model would be for doing, I suppose, optical character recognition in other kind of applications. So you feed a document in, it gives you a much better recognition of characters, such tables or whatever's on that document based on how you've trained that model. So if it's something that you have a document that might vary across different vendors that you get an invoice from or something like that, and you still need to collect information, it can handle that a lot better. But yeah, so I suppose they're how you deal with AI in a very direct kind of between yourself and say something like Bing Chat or ChatGPT. In I suppose a small to medium enterprise, there's a lot of other ways that you can interface with an AI tool, and a lot of that would be from something like your line of business application. So when you are going through that, sorry, I've just lost my spot, which I do all the time. Yeah, so I suppose things like that would be when you're interfacing with a line of business, you've got something like, say, in Mile, you can use it to help you query information. You've got AI in your banking systems that help detect fraud. If you're in e-commerce, it might help you create a product description. So something like Shopify does that. Or even in your inventory systems around kind of figuring out what your product flows and stock flows are like. That's definitely where it can help there. So there's definitely a lot of data that we entrust to AI, and that's definitely something that we need to be aware of. So like I said, things we need to be aware of. So that response bias. So basically what happens is if you have a model that hasn't been trained on an entire data set, you can have, I suppose, shortcomings that come in there. So when you talk to AI, like I said, you kind of treat it as a stranger. You've got to tell it everything it needs to know. You should do the same for the responses that you get from it. So if there is a kind of query that you get that doesn't look quite right, it might not be right. You probably should go have a look at that. You've got data hallucination. So that was one that I was talking about previously, where if, say, the AI model doesn't know an answer, it can just create data for you, which obviously becomes a problem if you're using it for finding or fact-finding, kind of the start of doing some research. Doing your vendor verification. So that comes back to where your data lives, who owns your data. There's been some horror stories around large organizations using something like an open AI model and their data going in and coming out in all other kind of areas because that data has been used by the model for other answers as it's been learning and being used to train the model. So when you select a third-party tool or software or something like that, you really want to look at what the engine is under the hood that is powering that AI kind of function of their application to make sure that your data is not going to be kind of spread out everywhere and you still have control over that. So that also kind of comes into your compliance requirements. If you've got contracts or agreements with, say, government or other agencies or industries that require you to be really tight around where your data lives, then that's definitely something that you want to have a look into when you're selecting that program. And then also kind of what reach does AI have into your data? So that kind of comes into the next part, which is preparing your business for AI. When I was preparing, I found this lovely little meme, which is the Lion King. So all of this is going to be yours. What's the shadowy place over there? That's a lift and shift file migration that we haven't re-permissioned for years. You must never go there. So that kind of comes into that whole thing of you really want to make sure that the data that you're feeding into something like an AI platform or into the not that Miranda, into the system is in a way protected from obviously the right people having access to it. Obviously, making sure that the model itself is going to look at that correctly. So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of companies that have done that. Lift the file server, put it into something like SharePoint, put it in like an archive, lock it down to 1 or 2 users, and that's kind of where it is. That kind of really does limit the amount of information that the AI is going to have access to. You really want to kind of make sure that the right data is available to the right people. And I kind of akin it to, you're going to have everyone over for Christmas dinner. They're going to be looking through all your drawers, all your cupboards, and everything like that. But you need to make sure that they're not going to find the present stash at the top of your wardrobe and then tell everyone what you've got there. So that's that one. I suppose in the real world example, that would be you have a junior staff member that's been asked to put together some financial records or something. They ask the AI platform, if it's Copilot in this sense, hey, I need to look up all of this. Can you give me this information? and they get back a whole heap of other information that they probably shouldn't have access to, like someone's pay figures or something like that, because the data wasn't prepared properly. So when you're preparing your business for AI, that's definitely kind of what you got there. And then that kind of also comes into preparing your staff for AI. So how do you get the team to adopt it, but also how do you kind of get the team to understand what they're doing? And so obviously end user awareness and education is super important with that. They need to kind of understand, like we spoke about, the security, the data management aspects that they need to know about, and then also how they can get the most out of AI from their job role. Obviously, there's people that will have things like ChatGPT or other AI platforms that they've already signed up for as a business, kind of is catching up and getting ready with what they need to do so that they can roll out an AI platform correctly. They need to be re-verified if they don't make or don't meet your policies or whatever the decision is of business. Then obviously that needs to get checked and dealt with. And then additionally, creating your policies. So having something that's really clear for staff to understand where they sit in terms of what they can use AI with, and then also if they need to go for a new software and it's got AI, and how do they get that assessed? How do they get that reviewed so that it doesn't become a roadblock from everyone? And then also having a working group or having kind of I suppose a champion in the organisation that shows everyone else how to use AI, shows, I suppose, the things that they need to be aware of, things to do, not to do, and all of those kinds of things in the organisation as well. So you can obviously get the most out of it. So that's me in terms of kind of the introduction to AI, understanding it, where it can help, I suppose, at a high level. I'm going to hand to Phil now. He's got a fair few more slides in the Microsoft Copilot space, and that will kind of, obviously going a little bit deeper. Over to you, Phil.
Well done, Brendan. I don't know that there's much more me to say. For an overview, you certainly gave a lot of depth as well. And I did like your meme, as Miranda did as well. She really liked your meme that you put up there. And it is an item that I'll cover in this section. So it quite leads in nicely in terms of its getting ready. So you covered some really good points towards the end there around the getting ready. That user education element was really important. Change management, change and adoption management is a very significant factor, because this is changing the way that we work. And not everybody in the audience who've joined today within their organisation is maybe prepared for that change in the way in which we work. And the second point you brought, that great example of, bringing an assistant in to help with financial planning and putting all the documentation together, and the analogy of Christmas presents being found around the house. Absolutely right. We need to ensure that we've got the right discipline, the governance, the compliance, the labelling, the classification of our work, such that the right people, as you put it, the appropriate people, get to see the appropriate information at the appropriate place at the appropriate time. And that's all about getting ready for AI. So big thank you to you all. I think that doesn't Brendan need a round of applause? We all know how to do that for what he did in terms of his overview. So why don't we do that? And I'm going to take control of the deck, all going well, and move on. So hi, I'm Phil. I'm a tech strategist here at Microsoft. So in my role, I seek to understand all the technologies that Microsoft's bringing to bear. And at the moment, the one that I'm asked to share with our partners in the partner community and their customers is around AI and the copilots. Part of that preparation and getting ready is this announcement that you may have seen about a month and a half ago, where Microsoft is announcing a $5 billion Australian dollar investment to increase the computing capacity inside the data centres that we have here in Australia. So currently we have some 20 sites around Australia to support your needs. They exist in Canberra, Melbourne and Sydney. We're going to increase that to 29, and those sites, each of those sites, just to give you an idea, you won't see any naming out the front. It won't say Microsoft Data Centre or anything like that. It'll look like a big hangar somewhere out the west of Sydney or the west of Melbourne. It'll look like a big shed that could store probably 2 747s in it. So every one of those sites has got thousands of computers and terabytes and petabytes of storage that are supporting your needs. So we're increasing that capacity by 250% over the next 2 years to deal largely with this era of AI. Security is also a key element, and hence we've done this alignment with the Australian Signals Directorate to build this shield, the cyber shield, and we know, you know, that's an entire other topic, Lee, we've spoken about at previous events. Happy to talk about again. It's just ensuring that all of our customers here online have got the security in place, the multi-factor authentication, and some of the elements that are fundamental for us to being effective in this AI world around compliance. And a whole lot of training. So 300 Australians, and that investment is going to the technical and further education colleges around the nation. So you've got a grassroots foundation of skill set that you can draw on to help your business, and partners like RODIN have got to draw on to help them with the implementation. This slide here really is giving you a sense of how rapidly that technology, ChatGPT, hit 100 million users. It happened within 3 months, faster than TikTok, faster than Facebook, certainly faster than the internet and mobile phones. Why did that particular AI technology take off so rapidly? Well, it was about accessibility. A lot of the things in the prior elements of this slide, the mobile phone, the internet, those things created that base to make it very, very easy for you to go into a web page and type in ChatGPT and do some holiday planning or create some images. So that accessibility. Now, AI isn't new. AI actually has been around. I'll test anybody on the line. What year was the first AI program ever written? So who's going to put in a year? And it doesn't start with 2000. I'll give you a clue. So it's 19 something. And it's certainly actually older than me. Now, I don't know if any of you are using aging technology, but those of you who are online who might have the ability to pick my age, I'm 63. And indeed, the date, the year, I only need the year, is older than me or before my time. Who's going to have a guess? 1951, a little early, but you're in the right decade. Well done, Miranda. Thanks for having a go. Who else is going to have a go? 1950 something. All right, time's up. 1957 was the first time that somebody wrote programming. Gosh, archaic programming, admittedly, but they tried to do some artificial intelligence work in a big, big room with lots of lights and switches and the like, unlike what we would do today with generative AI. The research we've got from Sloan Management Review indicates that 87% of organisations believe that it's going to give them a competitive edge, a productivity edge, the ability to do work quicker, which is wonderful. So that's a very compelling data point for you to think about the leveraging of this artificial intelligence with inside your business. I really like this particular research from this year, which is the Work Trend Index piece, and I really embrace the left-hand side of this, which is 2 times likelihood around leaders such as yourself seeking to boost productivity with inside your organisation rather than cutting headcount. So this idea that I've got good headcount, I've got good people, I'm going to train them, change management, maybe the help of RODIN to help you with that change management process and see increasing productivity for that staff. Because, you know, our employees are lacking that time and energy to do their current jobs. And those who have been exposed to this AI technology are willing to delegate some of that work to artificial intelligence to improve the quality of work or to increase the amount of work that they're able to achieve in a day. Now, this is a local piece that was done, an Australian piece by the Tech Council of Australia. Just pop up to the Tech Council of Australia, search for that using hopefully Bing Chat. And I'll get to more details about why you should use that shortly. But this piece of work was done by the Tech Council after we showed them some very early versions of our Copilot technology. And when they analysed that and considered its implications, they saw everything from slow pace to fast pace adoption and the implications it has on the productivity of our nation, the economic opportunity that it presents to our country. Anything from a 40 to $115 billion increase in productivity is quite remarkable. Productivity increase in product quality and increase in jobs, actually. So new skill sets that will come from this era of AI also. Now, this is a little graphic I've put together to try and represent why ChatGPT is good, and it is great, it's wonderful, and why technology like Bing Chat or commercial AI platforms like Bing Chat, Microsoft Copilots, and the Azure AI is important to you. If you're using ChatGPT, you're in a world like this. So you as a human being, putting in prompts, it's going into a model, and that data is then training the model, and the data is stored with that model. So if you're doing some work, and I'll cite a very specific example of Samsung. So there was a software developer at Samsung who took a piece of code from a Samsung environment and said, okay, I want you, please, ChatGPT, to improve and enhance this particular code segment. So the generative model, the large language model, gave them indications on how to do that. And that code was stored for others. Along comes a hacker and says, how can I hack Samsung? And it went straight to the segments of code that individual could then use to hack that code. Now, okay, maybe that's a very extreme example. Let's bring it into your own personal life. Say you're doing some financial planning. Say you're thinking about investment portfolios. That's maybe not something you want everybody else to know about, how much money you've got in the bank and what your financial plans are. Holiday planning, fantastic. You know, I really don't care that people want to know that I'm spending 3 days in Takayama, Japan. But in terms of what I'm making decisions about, what share portfolios or what car I might want to buy, I'm not sure I want the rest of the world to know that. So I'll make a very bold statement. Today is the last day you use ChatGPT for anything work-related and anything that's personal that could be considered business or private related. Today is the last day. From today, you should be looking to use a model like this, a better model, a model that keeps your data in your space. Absolutely your work business data by using something like Bing Chat and the Azure OpenAI model means that your data stays in your repository, in your tenant, and it is not shared with anybody else. Bing Chat in your personal life, so for financial planning or for anything that you consider to be private, I would commend you to think about using Bing Chat instead of ChatGPT if you want that information to be private. You can see the governance that's in place, the permissions control, the identity management around preventing data loss, around optimizing the filters and the responses to give you truth rather than made up. You know, Brendan talked about hallucinations that can occur in the previous model. These models are predicated on the idea that we have truth, we have citations, Brendan referred to it as footnotes. We know where the data is coming from. You can be creative, but creative based on a foundation of truth and based on the idea that the data or the principle that your data is your data and nobody else will see your data. So now I'll just move on to this kind of high-level representation of where we take the conversation. First, this idea that there's these sets of what we call our copilots, copilots we create for everyone that are built into things like Word and Excel and Teams and Chat. And they're things that you can get as a finished service from Microsoft. In the middle, there's this idea of I want additional value. I want to create something specific to my business. So this is the idea that I can create my own copilot. We'll call that your copilot. I'll cite a very specific example in my personal life where this has come through. My daughter, she's a lawyer. She's a partner in a law firm and based in London. I showed her some of this Copilot technologies Christmas last year and told her about the ability to create your own. Well, she works in mergers and acquisitions, and anybody who knows mergers and acquisitions, it's a very complex space, and she works in international mergers and acquisitions. So you've got documents coming from Korea and Italy, you've got international law you've got to consider, companies trying to transact with one another. She went back to London, talked to the IT team over there, and they built on top of Azure OpenAI a tool they call Co-Counsel, specifically built for the lawyers to increase their productivity in processing mergers and acquisitions. And I am really touched by the fact that when I now see her every morning, her breakfast, our evening here. She's online with my grandson and we can have a chat. She wasn't able to do that before co-counsel. And she gets home in time to go and pick up my little man from the daycare facility because of the co-counsel. So it's so significantly increased her productivity. It's had a very personal impact for me to know that my little man, my little grandson, has now got a mum that's leaving at a reasonable time and coming home at a reasonable time. And of course, her business used Azure OpenAI because they needed to make sure that they were working with a responsible partner for the storage of very confidential documents in the legal community. So this is just a quick snap of all the areas where AI is built into the Microsoft family of technologies. Across the top, if you're using Dynamics 365, there's some wonderful things there for sales automation. In fact, our Microsoft 365 with Dynamic Sales can also work not only with our Dynamic Sales, but can also work with Salesforce. So you've got the ability to couple to non-Microsoft environments for certain areas. And of course, partner solutions, RODIN is here to help you build additional solutions that might be specific to your business, based on using Power Platform, based on using bot technology, form recognition technology, video indexing technology, and all the things we've had actually in Azure for many, many, many years, dating back to 2012 vision, 2014 speech, 2016 language capabilities and machine learning capabilities, to now arrive as this open AI service running on top of the Azure machine learning platform. Look, this is probably a little bit too tech for most of you, but this just shows you the idea that an application can be based on the Microsoft Copilot. So if I said our Copilots, your Copilots, there's something you build, they can be brought together. The idea that they still use a common foundation model, they still use your data, that's still running in the Azure infrastructure, which is the most trusted and comprehensive cloud available today. Look, to give you a sense of some of those other Copilots that we make, we're going to do a few demonstrations in a moment, walkthroughs of some of the Microsoft 365 Copilots, which I know are quite popular to talk about. I have included a link there to a playlist of Copilots. We're not going to have time to go through the full list, but if you're looking at a wonderful 12-track playlist, an album of Copilots, you can pop up to that link later on, or just go to YouTube after the event and search for the Microsoft 365 Copilot playlist. And it's quite good to show you Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Power Platform, etc. Dynamics is there. Power Platform for low-code, no-code development. Again, talk to the RODIN team if you're not familiar with what Power Platform is. Maybe a simple way to put it is, many people say, well, there's an app for that, but whatever if there isn't an app for that? Well, this is a way in which you can very easily create an app for that requirement in your business by using drag and drop, click and drag technology in this very highly productive platform called Power Platform. Security Copilot. Love to talk to your security team about the power there. But again, have a chat to the RODIN team. They provide a managed security service to you. They can enhance that by using Microsoft Security Copilot. Even if you're not using Microsoft security products in your business today, it can help them enhance the way in which they're able to respond to threats, address those threats, and remediate any threats that might arise. So there's a lot of Copilots out there. But let's get into the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Now, I want to emphasize why we use the term Copilot. So this isn't pilot, so it's not in charge of the airplane. It's supporting you as you drive your work. So just like a Copilot out there in the cockpit, supporting the pilot, it's supporting you as the pilot who's cruising the aircraft to assist you in increasing your productivity. And this is a little video that I'd like to play and gives you some insight to the capability that comes in one of the elements of Microsoft 365, a new element we call Microsoft 365 Chat.
Introducing Microsoft 365 Chat, a powerful new capability in Microsoft 365 to solve your most complex problems at work. Let's say you're a marketer at a national chain of home improvement stores, and you need to get the latest on the store opening. You start your day with Copilot, asking what's hot in your inbox today. It does some thinking and gives you an overview of the most pressing items. Great, looks like the new store opening plans could use your attention. Let's dive in deeper there. Copilot combs through all your recent emails, chats, documents, and meetings, whether you attended them or not, to get you up to speed in moments. It didn't just summarize a single document, it knew what sources to pull from and what information to extract from each. Next, you need to do some market research. Let's say you want some details on square footage and the proximity of competitors to your new location. M365 Chat scours the web, and within seconds, it finds everything you're looking for. And it includes references, so you can easily fact-check the results. You're curious, how does this stack up against the other stores you opened in the past year? Copilot figures out which stores you mean, crunches the numbers, and gives you the answer. Next on your to-do list, finalize the date and speaker for the opening event. You missed the last meeting, and this might have come up in the conversation. Copilot's got you covered, getting you up to speed in seconds. Looks like it was a dynamic discussion, and it's your responsibility to make the final decision. To do that, you need to understand all the factors at play, including the implications they have on your grand opening timeline. Copilot extracts the relevant details and puts them in an organized table, which helps bring the full picture into view. You're not seeing a clear answer, so you ask it to recommend the best date and speaker based on the constraints discussed. It not only understands the constraints, it thinks through the options to help solve your problem. There you go. Now you have a clear recommendation, so you can make the call and notify the team. Now that you've got your opening date, you've got to get the customers excited. Time to write a blog post. You point Copilot to the right files and ask it to pick the top 5 things and make them prominent. Here it goes. Give it a moment. Okay, now you've got a blog post. This store will be the first to unveil your new home improvement concierge service, and you need a catchy tagline. Let's generate some options. This is great for when you've got a case of writer's block. Here we go. These look pretty good. You want to add a blurb on the new store manager and highlight their impressive retail experience. Copilot pulls the information from LinkedIn and puts it in the blog for you. The opening is just around the corner, and you've got to send an email to get the team ready. Now, one of the amazing things about Copilot is you don't need to worry about things like punctuation, spelling, or being super structured in your prompt. You can just give it a total brain dump, as you can see here. And what you'll find is the more context you give it, the better the results. There was a great quote in the store walkthrough video that you want to include, but you don't remember where you last saw it or have time to search for it, let alone rewatch it to find the quote. Based on your quick description, Copilot can find the exact video you're thinking of, extract the quote you wanted, and plugs both the quote and the video into your email. Let's hop over to Outlook to refine the email. So you like the draft, but it doesn't sound like you. Introducing Sound Like Me in Outlook. Now Copilot can personalize any email to match your unique style and voice. It even gets the subtle details right, like how you sign your emails. M365 Chat is a whole new way to work.
What do you reckon? Pretty good stuff? Excited about getting it? Yeah, I know you might have to wait a little bit. It's not available yet to everybody. It's available if you've got more than 300 users in your business. But if you're now smaller than that, we will have to wait a little while. Miranda liked it. Big wow from that. Great. And that video, if you want to share it with your colleagues, friends, even family, is in that YouTube link that I mentioned earlier. Just pop up to YouTube, search for Microsoft 365 Copilot playlist, and you'll see it in the list. So just bring us back though, you can see the potential there to unlock the productivity, really to unleash creativity in the way we work. Again, I want to emphasize this is using the latest large language models, which is just this incredible neural network in the way in which generative AI works. It's using your data. It's not using other people's data. It's only working with your data. It's working with inside those applications that many of you use today. But I do want to emphasize you will need an internet connection. So you will need to have your data in the cloud, not steering in those little islands that we saw earlier in The Lion King. So it's important to think about that move to the cloud. So as I said, embedded inside Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams. Teams is really a place where it lights up. And to that end, I just want to give you a quick demonstration of Teams and how the Copilot surfaces there.
Imagine you have an appointment that conflicts with your weekly business review. What if you could do both? With Copilot, you can opt to follow a meeting. After the meeting ends, Copilot will summarize what you missed. You'll get a notification in Teams when the recap is ready. This recap will highlight content that was shared, summarize notes, and any action items for you or others whose names were mentioned. You see that one of your customers was discussed, and you want to learn more. You can ask Copilot clarifying questions, and it provides a detailed response. It can tell you why a certain decision was made, and gives you helpful context. You can even ask Copilot what other solutions were considered, and it provides citations from the transcript so you can see where Copilot drew these conclusions. It's a huge time saver. So that was pretty cool. But the real magic of Copilot happens during a live meeting. Let's say you're in a meeting with your team. You can ask Copilot to summarize the meeting so far. You can see how it summarizes who said what points were made, and it's really capturing the spirit of the discussion. And as the meeting progresses, you can check in on where people stand. You can even ask Copilot what questions are unresolved. It's just amazing to see this happen in real time during a meeting.
They have a look at that one as well if you want to share it with your colleagues. I love using Teams Recap. It's so busy at the moment with all the Copilot and AI activity. I am invited to a number of different meetings, and of course there's conflicts and overlaps. So I can attend one and follow another, come back and see what actions have probably landed on Phil to get on cover. But that's okay. The recap facility is just so powerful that you can even have a couple of meetings that you follow and attend another one. So just very, very good. I thought I'd just throw that little cartoon I came up across the other day in my travels. And it's so true. I've absolutely used AI to do both the write the long email or to summarize a long email. Another one I wanted to show, if we have time, I'm not sure how we're going for time, Lee, Brendan, we okay for another minute? Yep. This is a nice one. I particularly like this one in terms of that idea that Brendan talked about with DALL-E, with image creation. This is now bringing that image creation element within inside the design principles of things like Word and PowerPoint and so on.
When it comes to creativity, sometimes getting started is the hardest part. But how about when you want to add a visual to a text-heavy document? Now, with the new Designer integration in Copilot, you can effortlessly bring your ideas to life visually. Designer uses the context of your document to propose some visuals to choose from, and you can make it more personal by uploading your own photos. Within moments, you can create a custom graphic right in your document. Designer is the latest addition to our family of Microsoft 365 consumer apps. Powered by new generative AI, it allows you to create and edit visuals, giving you everything you need to make your project pop. Within moments, Designer quickly transitions your idea into a custom graphic with options to choose from. Once you select a design, you can customize your graphic further with new generative AI image editing features. Need to erase that unwanted object in the background? Like perhaps someone or something that takes away from the true star of your photo. Just hover and click. And sometimes your picture may not fill the full frame, but now you can expand any image to really make it shine. Done. You can even add an entirely new object. Or maybe you just want to mix it up a bit. By leveraging the DALL-E 3 image editing model, it's as simple as using your imagination and your words. What used to require specialized software and photo editing skills can now be done in just a few clicks.
So I think that's pretty amazing, the sort of stuff that's in Designer. Did you notice that one where the young girl had her arms up and she was under the tree and they stretched it up, but it actually generated the image above the tree? So made that look. I saw an example of that used with the, if you're old enough to remember Windows XP, they had that green hill in the background with the blue sky. Somebody used that same approach inside the designer technology to say, well, what would be to the left? What would be to the right? What would be below and what would be above? And it generated some really interesting imagery around forests and things in the sky flying about, which was quite nice. And I do reflect on the that idea of not only images but video. You might recall from the very first video I showed, that Microsoft 365 chat. Do you recall the segment where the person who was narrating said, I want to go and get the quote out of a video? To have that intelligence in this technology to go and say, yeah, I understand what a video is. I can translate that video into words and give you the quote from the video from the person and embed that as text. This is the incredible productivity that will be derived through this technology called Copilot, shortly available to those users with less than 300 seats and available today for those who've got more. Now, the reason I put this slide up is just to reflect that AI, again, is not new. It's something that Microsoft has certainly included in the Microsoft 365 for many, many years. You can go back to 2014, that little orange bit Delve, which is AI technology to help understand the productivity of staff, of myself, to see what areas I've worked on, and I could look back at a workplace analytics. You can also see areas like live captioning and titles up the top or in the middle, towards the right middle section. So live captioning and subtitles is something I will often use inside PowerPoint presentations that I'm delivering to schools. So I work on a program called Think You Know, which is about child online safety with the Australian Federal Police. We go out to schools and we talk to parents and carers about child safety. And often the audience isn't English speaking first. So I will turn that on, and depending on the audience being Korean or Mandarin or oriented towards more India and one of the different languages, I'll turn that subtitling on so they can read along with me in their native language. That's something you might want to consider turning on in your own business. It's very simple inside PowerPoint. It's very simple in Teams to be able to select the subtitling and captioning. Just a reminder, at this point, if you've got any questions, our team from RODIN is there, standing by to take your calls. So if you're a first-time listener, you might want to take advantage of that chat button and pop in any questions you've got, or I think RODIN has actually acted. So Lee, Brendan, you've also activated the Q&A section as well. So either of those forums you can use up the top there in your top ribbon bar to do a chat or a Q&A with us, and our teams, the team from RODIN, will help you with anything you've got as questions. At the moment, it's a bit quiet in the chat channel. I hope I'm still coming through. Brendan, you can still hear me? Lee, very good. Okay. All right, what we're going to move on to now is some of the other elements in and around security and compliance. This is really at the heart of getting ready for these co-pilots being available to your organization, or even before you think about deploying these co-pilots. Security, compliance, and privacy are key components to think about deploying into your business before you release the co-pilot. I am fearful of the stories that are going to come out when some organizations will deploy Copilot without going through these steps first. And it goes to the point that Brendan made right up front, which is where individuals in your business could basically query anything, find things they're not supposed to find out, and then have insights to the business that you really don't want those individuals and the staff to have. So whilst I talked about this security of your business by using the Microsoft platform, I call it the outer ring. Also consider in your business the idea of these inner rings. So maybe the information related to HR is one of those rings. The information related to your legal department being another one of those rings, where only information related to legal stays in the legal department. Things to do with the senior management team and any discussions they're having in terms of board meetings or management meetings may need to be ring-fenced and stuck in its own ring as well. And indeed, if you're an organization that might be working with that idea of contention between two customers, it happens in the legal industry. You're working with one client and you've got another client and there's some tension between those, they can't see each other's data, making sure that those two teams are working in their own separate rings so that nothing can be seen. So this is a key opportunity for you to think about leveraging what you've already got with Microsoft 365. If you're on Business Premium, E3 and E5, you've actually already got a lot to do with in terms of the technology. In fact, all the technology you need to ensure identity management, information protection, sensitivity labeling, classification of documents. That technology is something that you can work with the team at RODIN to go turn on. So based on that Zero Trust foundations for the integrity and safety of documents, we're extending that with those security, compliance, governance and labeling capabilities that are also in that box, which is called Microsoft 365 Business Premium and above. So some of those new and existing customers that are excited about Microsoft 365 do need to consider that Lion King moment, a moment that Brendan shared. You know, if you have got information is on-premise or mixed between on-premise and the cloud, it is about bringing the business to the cloud, because that's where the indexing occurs. That's where the messages, the chats, the files, the users, the calendars and messages, etc., do need to exist so that they can be what's called semantically indexed, so that we can get the neural network fired up so it can give you the insights to the business, but of course with security implemented as well. So in this space, we need to be conscious about the access to the content and the context of that information. So as part of the change management process and then moving into the compliance and security, I'm sure the RODIN team is there to help you in ensuring that we get that classification correct. So in terms of preparing the environment, better prepare the environment. Again, that semantic index fires up. It's going to search. It takes about a week to search for all the messages in the business, all the meetings in the business, all the chats that are going on in the business, all the file shares, all the files that have been moved to SharePoint or to Teams, the users and their calendars. But of course, a critical element is applying those sensitive labels and restrict permissions, and even applying information right protection to the information, setting up retention labeling and policies for email. This is also critical. If we've got that requirement to go back in time, 3 years ago, Jono sent a message about a project. We want to be able to go back that 3 years, and that information again inside Business Premium is recoverable by using the Copilots, even though Jono might have left a year ago and he sent that mail 3 years ago. That sort of stuff is all possible with Business Premium, E3 and E5. It doesn't happen automatically. It does take some work. It takes some discipline in and around the implementation. And again, I call on Lee and Brendan and the team to help you with the implementation of that. These are some of the services that they can help you with. Over and above that, Business Premium is an example, which is that license per user per month for many devices. I think from memory, it's 15 devices, 5 mobiles, 5 tablets, 5 PCs is what's licensed with that particular stack. But this is, you know, doing a lot in that box. You know, you don't need your CrowdStrike, you don't need your Dropbox or your Box anymore. You don't need to use Slack, all those other products. Business Premium's got it in there, so that's that do more with less. But moreover, the RODIN team can help you with activating those Teams phone systems and even Teams room systems as people are moving back to the office. The MDR and the XDR, the SOC, the system, the NIST, the onboarding of email and endpoints, that device, and moreover, that bottom one, classification and governance support. Right context, right content, what are our users supposed to see, where and when. In closing out, I really want to just emphasize this point around responsible AI. Your data is your data. Say it again, your data is your data. It is not Microsoft's data, it is your data. It is not data that we use to train the model and share with other organizations. It trains you and your environment only. To show you the level that we take that seriously, outside of the context of AI, we've had a number of governments approach us and demand that we bring out the data of your company and give it to them. And we have said no. and we've defied them in a court of law at our expenditure. So we've had those governments say, we want this customer's data. No, it's not our data to give you. Go and ask the customer. And they said, right, here's the subpoena. You'll release that data. And we go, okay, we'll see you in a court. And at our expense, we've defended that data as your data, not our data. In that same concept of transfer from out of our data center, inside the data center, your data is your data. So this is an opportunity to get ready. There is certainly a lot of excitement about this era of AI, but I do think that to get foundational in the productivity, we need to have foundations in productivity. To my mind, one is related to change management. The other is to do with that security and government. So in terms of laying the foundation, do think about that do more with less message. It could be some elements to do with where you're using products that overlap with the Microsoft 365 family today. Yeah, I appreciate you've probably got contracts today and terms and conditions where you can't exit that for a little while, but work with the RODIN team. They can work with you and set a timeline for extracting that element and activating the Microsoft 365 component to do with device management, application management, retention policies, collaboration, etc. And then in the middle is a key step to take now, which is that loss prevention, classification, sensitivity labeling, and information protection. And you today could make a step on the path to secure and responsible AI by simply activating bing.com/chat and getting a sense for what it's like to get citations, to know that your data is protected. Now, it is called Bing Chat Enterprise there. I didn't change the slide because the links are still active, but we actually had a rename. It's just called Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. Now, simple, short, succinct Copilot is what we'll see the rebranding of that become very shortly. With that, Brendan, Lee, sorry for taking so long. I just realised the time, but back to you.
That's fantastic. I'd like to extend thanks to both Brendan and Philip for that presentation today. It was quite insightful, and I hope that everybody else out there found that those topics were enlightening and valuable for your own business journey with AI and Copilot. And I suppose the rise of AI really underscores, I guess, the critical needs for businesses that have a robust IT and business strategy, and it really is essential to align IT and business goals to be able to fully harness the transformative capabilities of not just AI, but IT and digital transformation as a whole. It's where it can really help to have the right people in the room to bridge that gap between capabilities and business objectives, and to steer your organization through the process of digital transformation, and it can really pay off. And fortunately, that's exactly what Brendan does for our clients through our CIO as a service offering. So look, in closing, please reach out if you'd like to learn a little bit more about CIOs and as a service and IT and business strategy. But look, other than that, haven't got any questions in the Q&A, and we are getting up to the end of the allocated time today. So look, what I would say is, if you have any questions that you'd like to take offline, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself and Brendan, and we'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
Lots of nice thank yous in the chat window, Lee. Brendan, so very much appreciate that you got some value out of that. Bernadette, Miranda, Sarah, thank you.
Great to see you.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
No worries. Bye, everyone.